Hey guys, happy Friday. Welcome to the final episode of season 4 of the Collaboration Conversation, a listener-supported video podcast where Christian artists, entrepreneurs, and friends share about their upcoming projects and how they are using the gifts and talents that God has given them. To what end? Of course, as always, is to share the good news of King Jesus. Today, it's just us.
Yes, it is.
I love our guests, but I love it when it's just us. It just... I don't know if it just takes the pressure off. It's just, it's just you can breathe. And I like bantering with you. It's always fun. Well, so tell me about how you feel like season 4 has gone.
Well, that's an interesting question. I would say that this was probably the most chaotic season. You know, our first season, I think we did 28 episodes. I think we'll have 16.
Yes.
By the time we're done with this one. So, yeah, I mean, it went fine. Life happened in the middle of it.
Yeah, so we ended up taking a little break in September. A couple of things happened. I had a non-viable pregnancy that I just felt like I just was overwhelmed. Yeah. Not just with like life, but just like my emotions were all over the place. I'm also, as we've talked about on the podcast, I just a little over a year ago got out of eating disorder treatment. And just the last year has been like I can't get my medication right. There's been a lot of just like random anxiety attacks and things like that. And so just with the non-viable pregnancy, with the medication, Nick and I got a puppy in the middle of that.
And she's a maniac.
She's wonderful. And she's my little lady and I love her so much, but she's a mess.
You're going to have to insert a picture here.
Yeah. I'll do a picture video or you can just go follow her at Chatanola on Instagram. She's doing great on Instagram. Anyway, I needed a break, and you were very gracious enough to just hear me and to hear my my two things at the same time. I love our podcast, and I also need a break. Right? Two things can be true at the same time. And so anyway, you were very gracious. We took a little bit of a break. We took like a 5-6 week ish break, and I just was kind of able to settle in to the puppy. I was able to do some therapy and some healing and some prayer over my the pregnancy situation. And so anyway, we took a little bit of a break, and so what that ended up doing was it just kind of created this natural break in between like an 8-episode and an 8-episode season kind of a thing. Does that make sense?
Right.
And the way that we've been doing it since 2020 is that we do 2 seasons a year. We're the only ones in the whole world who do that.
That's not true.
That's how it feels. We did 2 seasons a year.
Right.
About 24 to 28 episodes each. So we ended up doing like 48 episodes a year, which I don't know if you guys know, but there's only 52 weeks in the year. And so it's just a ton of work. And if you don't know, we volunteer for this. We don't get paid to do this.
Right.
And so that is for someone who, and I'm very open about this, who is a recovering workaholic.
Right.
It's just a lot to do. It just was a lot of work. So, and it is a lot of work. And it's work that we find joy in and that we love doing.
Oh, amen.
Especially the filming. I would say that the filming is, for me, just the culmination of what God is doing in our lives together and our relationship. Yeah. And I love it.
Well, and I said to you night before last, because of this podcast, I have, 98 new friends.
Right,
or whatever.
Totally.
So,
and you love connecting people. And so it's a huge blessing, but there's a ton of pre-production work that you do.
Right.
And then there's a ton of post-production work that I do with the post-production and then also the scheduling on the social. It is just a huge endeavor and it's a beautiful blessing. But I came to her basically a couple weeks ago, kind of during the break. And I was like, I want to keep doing this. How can we have a conversation about finding a balance between 48 episodes and not doing the podcast at all?
Right.
And kind of what we came up with. And it changed a little bit here and there, but we are very excited I'm particularly very excited about our season 5
plan
format.
Yes.
So I'm going to share that with you guys, and I'd love to hear your anecdotal attitude about it. But
you don't sound like you would love to hear that.
I'm so excited about it. But basically, so what we're going to do is we're going to scale it back to 1 season a year. To me, that's very normal. We're going to do 1 season a year. And basically what we're going to do is we're going to take February, January and February to film and to edit and to schedule online for the first half of the season. And then the episodes will air every other Friday from March, April, May, and June. We'll take off July and August to film the second half of the season. And then the rest of the season will air September through December, every other Friday. So we'll end up with about 18 episodes, 16 guests, 2 of our episodes, but a total of 18 episodes for the season. And then, we do a season a year. And I think what's beautiful about this, and I'm just going to be really transparent here. And so I apologize if this is unexpected, but I just feel like the growth that you and I have had over the last maybe 2 years, not in doing this, yes, has just been life-changing. There are times where, in the past where you and I strove to work together and it was painful and it was hard for both of us and we weren't on the same page, or it didn't work out the way either of us wanted it to. We were on the same page, but it didn't work out that way. And it was devastating. And there, we are a very normal mother. No, we're not very normal, but we are, we are a mother and daughter,
Yes.
and we are best friends and we do work together and we have a very unique relationship, but that doesn't mean that we don't fight. That doesn't mean that we don't have disagreements and that, we are different people, which I'm going to let you speak on that here in a little bit. But I just think that sometimes people might see us, and I've heard it. I mean, I have heard friends of yours say, how do you guys have this? I want to have the same relationship with my daughter. And I'm like, do you? In a good way. Yes. But also it's a lot of work.
It
and
is. Yeah.
I just feel like in the last year or so, with the work that a lot of the work that I've done on myself and and the work that you're doing on yourself, we've just have been able to communicate better.
Yeah.
We're able to not take things so personally. Right. I mean, I think we do, but we are able to handle it better and realize that it's not personal.
Right.
And for me to be able to say to you, I can't function at capacity and do 48 episodes a year.
Right.
I can't do that. I can't function well.
Yeah.
And so for you to be able to receive that, I'm just so proud of us and proud of how far we've come and the way that we communicate now and that we can pause when things get tough and listen. And that's not to say we won't have disagreements in the future or fights, but I love where we are now, versus where we were before the podcast, if I'm being honest.
Right.
Sorry, I just kind of rambled, but how do you feel about that?
It's all good.
Say it.
No, I'm just kidding.
Say it.
Yeah, no, I was pretending like I didn't have an opinion on this.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, I do. So, first of all, I would like to say thank you to the guests that we had scheduled in August.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
We were kind of ready to go. I think we were a week or so out, and we had 8 or 9 folks lined up, and they were all very gracious. Some of them I actually explained why we were needing a break, and others I just said there was a medical situation that has come up. And so everybody, half of them rescheduled for October, and then the other half we'll catch for season 5. So just a big shout out,
big thank you to them.
Yeah, thank you to those 8 or 9 folks. So yes,
period, and that's all I have to say about that.
No, I mean obviously we are different, and that I think the podcast has made that more pronounced than ever before. Just as you got married. That's huge, right? That you're still kind of a newlywed, right?
I'll always be a newlywed.
Well, that's probably true. Yes. But that's only one of the things that has happened in the last 2 years, besides an international pandemic, right? Across the globe. There's just lots of factors that are playing into some of these changes in the way that we communicate differently and how the relationship has just changed. We used to talk every day.
Oh my gosh. Quit with that. We still talk every day.
Okay, wait a minute.
We are in constant communication.
We are not.
You guys are about to witness one of these fights. Here we go.
No, we were in constant communication and we are no longer. And that's good.
What are you talking about? What, we went one day without a phone call.
No.
I talk to you every day.
Yes, but constant is every day, every minute.
Okay, well, is that healthy?
No, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying it has grown into a much more balanced.
Yeah.
Right. Especially with the puppy, you're busy.
Yeah.
And that's great. I think it used to would have bothered me, and it doesn't. Now it's kind of normal. Right?
Yeah.
Good boundaries.
You love boundaries.
Right. I write down the 3 or 4 things that I'll need to talk to you about instead of calling you 3 or 4 times, right?
Right.
1 call, 3 topics or 4 topics, whatever. So.
The fact that you think we only call each other once a day is laughable, but...
Okay, well, anyway, you know what I'm talking about. Okay, so, but the other things that make it more pronounced for me, and I know you laugh at this.
I'm gonna.
But you don't even know what I'm going to say. But you are going to laugh at this, though. I love the psychology around the firstborn... middle child and youngest child thing. I find it entertaining, and I realize it doesn't apply to everybody. I mean, I know someone very close to me who is a firstborn that just does not act like a firstborn, which is fine. But I'm a firstborn. I want to do 48 episodes. I don't think that's too many. 96 might be too many, but 48 is fine. You know, I'm just kidding you, but
it would be 2 episodes
a day. I mean, a week. Yeah. See, I'm good with that. But I also, and this has come about in the last week or two, just overwhelmingly realized you're a middle child. And while
middle child,
you function so...
I'm a highly functioning middle child.
Well, no, but you function as an oldest child very often. And it confuses me. So if you could just only have fun, that would be helpful.
Great.
Yeah.
I can do that.
But anyway, when you were talking about all this changes, you know, and I've joked, we're going from 48 to 18, and that's just jarring to me.
Okay, but it's 48 a year to 18 a year. It was 24 a season to 18 a season.
Right. Well,
we're just doing 1 season a year instead of 2.
Right. And all of that's great. But anyway, it just, I don't know, hit me upside the head. You're a middle child, and you just want to have fun.
Yeah. But yes.
Not just. I don't mean it that way. But that is if you're not having fun... It's, you know, that's just a part of that's part of what motivates you. It might not be a big part, but
well, on the podcast is fun. I am having fun. Yeah. It's not fun to do 48 and lose sleep over it,
right?
But it is fun to do the podcast.
I think doing 48 and losing sleep is awesome.
Yeah, and I think what's tough is, you know, when you have kids, and I don't have any kids yet, but I, you know, even have these thoughts of like, oh, I want a little Sarah. I think we run into that. We think that I'm your only daughter. So you would think that I would just be, and so many people think that we're alike, and we are alike. There are a lot of similarities. We have very similar Enneagram types, which, well, yes, you're a firstborn and I'm a middle child. Our Enneagrams are very similar. Yeah. And I would argue that growing up, I probably was a lot more like you than I am now, in a sense that like overachieving was how I thrived. And I loved that, and I wanted to be the best of the best. And somewhere along the way, I don't know if it was when I met Nick and got married and like just realized that there was more to life than overachieving.
I can't understand what you're saying.
And that's fine. But to me, there was more to life than just constantly achieving. That there is blessing to be found in rest and chilling and having fun and having a puppy that I don't know what to do with. So anyway, all that to be said, I love that we're different. I love the ways that we're different. I love the ways that we're the same. We still do finish each other's sentences. I would love for us to do at some point. I'm manifesting this now. We're going to do a compilation of episode clips where we say the same thing at the same time. Yeah. Because I know it's in there. It's crazy. Yeah. So anyway, I think that transition can be hard, and transition and change can be tumultuous or like nerve-wracking. And I'm excited for where season 5's going. And you know, someday if we get a sponsor, hey, Way FM, or, you know, whatever, if we get a sponsor and people, you know, we're able to compensate ourselves for this work that we're doing, heck yeah, I'll do 48 episodes. Right. Do you know what I'm saying? Yeah. It just, as a volunteer, it was just a lot. It was basically a full-time job that I was volunteering for on top of full-time work.
Well, and part of that confusion is that while I'm a firstborn and I'm driven and, you know, want to be perfectionist and overachieve and all of those things, I'm just way fun.
You're so fun.
So that was confusing to you, I'm sure.
Exudes. Yes, I was like,
kidding.
This is fun. This is fun. Why am I? Yeah. No, that's awesome. And so I think it's just really encouraging to me, like I said, where we were, where we're going, where we are. And I am grateful that you have compromised with me, because I know both of us, one of our similarities is that when the going gets tough, we're like, let's just be done. So I know that when I kind of first said I needed a break, you know, your thought was, I'm done. I'm bolting. And that's just not, that was never a thought. That was never, That was never an option. I knew that there was a better way to do this for me.
Right.
And you've just been very gracious to compromise with me. And so I'm very grateful. And yeah, I just want to encourage folks that boundaries are good, and boundaries. Oh, my therapist, I'm sure she is quoting somebody. I'm sure she didn't come up with this, but she said, I can't remember exactly what it was, but the idea is that setting boundaries is hard. Yes. But it opens the gates for loving each other well. And I just think that is super. And I think it's true. I think that boundaries are hard, but with them, you can just love each other super well and love yourself well too.
That sounds great. And in season 5, we will have our 100th episode.
Despite going from 48 to 18.
It just took us longer to get there. That's all right.
It did not. It is not. No, and that is very exciting. And we've got, I know you've already got some great guests lined up. Again, thank you to the guests who were supposed to be in season 4, who are now going to be in season 5. But we've got some great guests. Amazing Gracie is going to be coming out during season 5. So I'm not sure what that's going to look like. I'm sure we'll do something special for our listeners about that. And so, I'm really looking forward to it. And anything I missed as far as update wise?
I think that's
you feel good about
season 4 and tells them about season 5.
Yeah. Well, why don't we have a little story time? We do love telling stories, you and I. That's one of the things we do. We are similar on some things. And so,
well, let me tell you how this came about. This
yeah,
topic.
Sure.
So, me, like everybody else, is on Facebook, and I was, I think it was a cousin of mine. Not, I think she was. She is a cousin of mine. 100%. My cousin reached out and said, I think she said that she had seen an episode or two, and I was like, oh, well, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
You just never know who's going to stumble across this stuff, and. It was a blessing, or she liked it or something, and I think it may have actually been the episode with your dad.
Ugh, which was such a great episode. Dad, I think everyone needs to email my dad and tell him he needs his own podcast.
Oh, yeah.
I think peer pressure will get him to do it. He needs his own podcast about biblical studies. Reach out to him on Facebook. Peer pressure him. All right, continue.
Well, so she was in the midst of sending her oldest firstborn off to college.
Yeah.
Right. So now he's probably been in 2 months or so. But at the time, she was... It was looming, and
yes,
it was overwhelming. And so we were commiserating a little bit about that. And I said something about, maybe Sarah and I should do an episode about going to college. And I can talk about it. I have 3 that went to college, but also you could talk about it from your perspective. And,
sure.
And how, anyway, she was like, yes, please do that. So I thought we would go ahead.
Dramatic.
I know. Well, the whole going to college thing is dramatic too. But anyway, so... you want to start talking about from your perspective?
Yeah, I think, I have a lot of thoughts about going to college, and my thoughts on going to college have differed, as I've gotten older. I didn't realize that not going to college was an option.
It wasn't.
Right, because it wasn't an option. And so I still would have done everything exactly the same. I love where I'm at, but the things that I do, I probably could have taught myself.
Yes.
And you know what I'm saying? I might have to sneeze. And if I do, I'll edit it out.
Okay.
But I feel it's coming. So anyway, I knew that I wanted to study theater. We've talked about this before, how you guys cultivated that in me. You made me very confident in knowing what I wanted to be, what I wanted to do. I knew that I wanted a theater degree, which to every other mother's dismay.
Well, and I kept feeling really bad that it didn't bother me
that I was getting a theater degree.
Yes, I kept thinking, if I was a good mother, I should make her get something to fall back on. And I just didn't.
No, I know, and I'm glad you didn't. But anyway, so I knew I wanted to go to a school for theater, and I knew I didn't. It wasn't necessarily important to me to go away to college, but I knew that I probably wasn't going to find the program I was looking for close by.
Right.
So I kind of knew that I probably was going to go out of state.
Right.
Which, anecdotally, ironically, one of those two words.
Ironically,
it is ironic that you worked for the scholarship that seniors in high school get if they stay in state.
Yes.
And I chose not to.
Yeah, thank you.
So I just remember, this was a while ago. I'm not going to date myself. I could date myself, but it was like 15 years ago. And so I remember we had a spreadsheet of college options.
You had thousands.
I mean, yes,
on your list.
Yeah, I remember wanting to apply to LSU just to apply.
And you did, and you got accepted.
Just to get the acceptance letter. I had no intention of going there, but I just wanted to have an acceptance letter from there.
You actually applied to at least one or two other schools in Europe as well.
I'm sure that that's true.
Yes.
But all that to be said is we found, ultimately it kind of went down to two schools, Maryville College and Catawba College in North Carolina.
Well, let me say just one thing about that process. On your spreadsheet, the things that were
like the criteria.
Yeah. Like some people have to go to a school that's big enough to have a football team. You didn't care necessarily about that. But like you were looking at a school that offered softball as a sport. And it didn't have to be D1, but the schools ended up being D2, I think. Yeah. Volleyball, theater is a major, and
specifically theater performance.
Yes. And you were, I think you would have gone to a state school, but I think you were looking for a private education, probably small, and it would be great if it was a Christian school. So those are kind of some of the criteria.
The criteria, and I think the way I found some of the schools, like I know Catawba we found because it was like number 8 on the Princeton reviews of theater schools for that year.
Yeah, U.S. News and Review too.
Yeah, something like that. And so that's how we came across that school. And I remember I loved, one of my favorite things is that I remember we were in your bedroom, which was also your office at the time. And we kept calling the admissions office when it was closed so that we could hear the answering machine to figure out how to pronounce Catawba. Yes. And I just think that's so funny. So anyway, we ended up going on a little college tour. We went to Maryville and Catawba on the same trip. Were there any other schools we did on that?
Yeah, but
it didn't matter.
They weren't really in the running. And are you gonna let me tell about Maryville?
I was about to tell about Maryville, but you can tell.
No, you tell it.
I just was gonna say there was nothing they could have done nothing they could have done better. They rolled out the red carpet. I feel like I spoke to
the vice president of the university was at the front door. Obviously, you can tell it. That's where I thought she was going to go. And not that I wanted her to, but it was closer. But the vice president was at the door to greet you.
And it was a beautiful campus.
Yes. And then admissions, they were great. They brought in the head volleyball coach. They brought in the head softball coach. They brought in actors from the theater program.
Yeah.
They couldn't have done a better job.
Yeah. And I wonder what my life would have been like had I gone there. But then we went to Catawba.
Well, let me just say this. We're on the tour. We finally leave the office and we're walking around and
you're like, this is it.
It was totally it. Let me give you a little bit of history. I've been in admissions and financial aid and college stuff for like 25 years. They are doing it right, So we're going on this little bend around by the dorms, and I am thrilled that this is going so well. And you go, yeah, I'm not feeling it. And I'm like, wait, what did you say? You're not feeling it? And I'm like, feeling what? Get over your feelings.
Get over your feelings. Anyway, Welcome to my child. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
No, but anyway, go ahead.
Yes. So I remember feeling something was missing, and I didn't know what it was, and I didn't know if I'd ever find it. I just was like, yeah, this is fine.
Right.
Just maybe not for me. So we drive to North Carolina, and it was instant. It was instant, which is just such a God thing. It's obviously God knew what he was doing. And I was supposed to be at that school for a time. Obviously, I didn't for those of you who don't know, I actually didn't graduate from there. I eventually transferred to Austin P, where I finished my 2 degrees. And 2 degrees? Is that what we call that? Dual degree.
Yeah. Dual majors.
Yeah. And, but I had to be there for a season, and we know why. And we've shared the story. But anyway, so I just remember we were there for it was some kind of scholarship thing. Like I had to do some kind of interview for some kind of scholarship. And then we also went to the theater and
waited.
And she apparently did not go as well for her as it went for me.
We just sat there waiting. I'm thinking,
they were letting us take in this beautiful theater.
No, it was the set.
Oh my gosh.
There were no actors on stage, and you were
It was Pirates of Penzance.
Yes, and you were like, this is the best set I've ever seen. And I'm like, we're waiting. They're just left us here.
They just left us here.
And you were in heaven.
I know. And then during the theater tour, they let us on the stage, and I was like, and I actually never got to perform on that stage, ironically. But I just...
But you did perform on one of the other 18 stages.
Well, yes, that's true. And it really was a great program. I loved my time at Catawba. And I made just the best of friends and the best of relationships. And I have like the most respect for the people that I went to school there, and especially the ones who are involved with Sway. And so anyway, all that to be said is when, I mean, I knew it. It was immediate.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, but it was immediate. There was nothing they could do wrong to me. Like they could have not said anything to me. I'm like, I'm going to go to school here. So ended up not playing volleyball, ended up not playing softball. We were just kind of warned. I know this sounds weird, but we were kind of warned that like studying theater there was like playing a sport, and they were not wrong. I was in the theater all hours of the day doing something. And so,
well, let me just add this because we're going to probably move on. And this is important to me.
Sure.
To say. It didn't dawn on me that you might not play sports at the college level.
Right. Well, me neither.
Theater was fine, but you were an athlete. So you left, they put me in this room, room with all these other parents, and you left and had an interview with the softball coach and an interview with the volleyball coach. And you came back and you were trying to decide between the sports because
I love both.
Right. It's a full-time job to play a college sport. But you couldn't play both. And you came back and you said, I'm not going to play either. And I almost fell out of my chair. I'm like, what? I mean, nothing's going right? You haven't picked Maryville, and now you're not going to play sports. It was
so
just very
sorry.
funny.
I've just been being a huge disappointment.
Not really. Not at all. But anyway, so you said, somebody told me that being in theater is like a full-time job. And of course it was.
It really was. I could not have done
and
both.
It was you couldn't. But I wasn't prepared for that.
Right. I know. I'm sorry.
Anyway.
So I pick Catawba, and that's where I'm going. And so you want to transition a little bit to drop off?
Sure.
So they do like a freshman orientation camping trip for like 3 days. The week before classes start. And so we moved into the dorm early, right? Like the freshmen moved into the dorms before everybody else, or at least the freshmen that are going on this trip. And so we go, and I'm going to let you tell it from your perspective because it's way more dramatic from your perspective.
Well, what were you doing you guys, they put everybody on the bus.
Put everybody on the bus.
Your bus was having engine trouble or something.
Yeah.
So you guys were a little bit delayed. Were you just talking with people and meeting people?
I mean, yeah.
I think Kanan was on your bus.
Yeah. I remember that. Yeah.
You meeting him for the first time?
Yeah.
And he was in Sway?
And there was a lot of people I met that day.
Yeah.
On that bus. A lot of people that I ended up being good friends with.
Well, the overachiever mom that I am,
You stayed.
I wasn't leaving
until I left.
Until your bus left. And I was literally the only parent in the parking lot because the other two buses had left.
Right.
Your bus was still, they were still fixing something. And then,
and a lot of people were local. So
well, yeah.
They probably just drove to the school.
Right. And I had
20 minutes away.
8-hour drive or whatever
right.
after that. And so I just stood, and so I was just standing there waiting, and I could see what window you were in. And at some point, they kind of turned the bus around, like they were going to make a
like
turn.
We turned around, yeah.
And I think, did you move over to the other side?
I don't know.
Well, I don't remember. But anyway, so I'm standing there, and it starts raining, and I'm like, fine. So I go to the back, and I get my umbrella. So I'm standing there
in the rain.
And it's, you guys, I can tell you're getting ready to leave. And so I start crying. And it was totally like a
movie.
Scene from a movie. I'm just
we have to put that in a movie somewhere.
And tears and I'm like, what am I doing? Anyway, it was, well, my best girl was going.
Yeah. Well, and it's always hard to send a kid off to college. Do you want to talk about sending the other two?
Yeah. Well, we can talk about that too. But what was a little different is, taking Bo to college was great. I mean, he had some really good opportunities, and oh my gosh, I missed him. But no offense, probably more than you did because he was the first, right?
Right.
But he was an hour away.
Right.
I didn't have this
8-hour.
Yeah, major separation.
Trek.
Yeah. So it felt like you were going to the other side of the world. Of course, it was one state over.
Right.
But yeah, that felt very dramatic.
Very dramatic.
So to ping pong over here, just for a hot second on sending kids off to college. I'm not sure that there's really anything people can do to prepare for it.
Right.
I mean, I wish there was. Maybe I'll write a book about this I
I went to camp a lot. Did that not help?
No.
Okay. Good to know.
It's a week, right? And then you're back.
Right.
And I guess in theory, you and your brother both came back a couple of times, and then he went back and did a second degree, and you went to LA and did studied at UCLA. But then it would be a time to come back in, a month or two or whatever, and reassess and figure out what you're going to do. Unlike your younger brother who left and never came back.
Just never came back.
I don't think I've seen him since. No, I'm kidding. I had dinner with him last night.
Poor Jesse.
I'm just kidding. But he just was like,
I'm done. Bye.
Mr. and I'm going to be Mr. Independent.
Yeah.
And he showed me. Anyway, it was funny. But there's just it's a rite of passage for the kids. But there's this change that happens, forever in that relationship, right? You become this independent adult and make your own decisions. It was really important to us to not say, well, while you're under our roof, you have to do this and this. When you came back, you still were on your own. We did, right? I mean,
right.
You didn't feel like you needed to check in. I mean, it was nice if you would say, hey, I'm going
X, Y, and Z. I'll be home at X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, or I'm going to take this weekend and Elizabeth and I are going to go do this. Or, just so that we knew you were okay. But that's just part of being a responsible adult.
Right.
That didn't have anything to do necessarily with the parenting thing. But anyway, so Bo going off to college was by far, for me, the hardest initially, right? Just because he was the first. And then he transferred after a year and a half to Martin, to a college further away, which still was a couple of hours. So it wasn't the end of the world.
You could drive there and back in a day. That's the difference.
Right. Yeah. Well, and it's just funny. Maybe I've thought of this, but he transferred after 3 semesters. And
I transferred after 3 semesters.
Jesse, however, did not. He stayed where he was at, but
good for him.
Anyway, you going off was hard. But with as hard as both of those were, I mean, hard. Some of the hardest things I've ever done, or survived or whatever. Jesse going off was even worse. And I don't even know how that's possible.
He's your baby.
I guess. But I mean, it shook me. And I guess it's because then it was an empty nest. And it was just me and Dad. And what are we going to talk about? Right? There's no kids
We've only been married for 30 years.
Well, but there's no kids in school.
Right.
I'm sorry.
In sports.
In school. But in sports, our life centered around a game a night or 2 or 3. And who is picking up who. And you're in this play. And we got to go see that show. And what's the schedule? And then it was nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, it was crickets. And that is just, it's real.
It's jarring.
Yeah,
sure.
It really is real. So I had kind of tried to prepare for Jesse. So I had started volunteering with the Helping Hands.
I remember that.
A community group. And I joined their board of directors in some role. I think I was treasurer. And volunteering there. And so I was trying to keep busy. And I think that did help, that I was a little bit more intentional with my time, specifically when he left, just because I knew, it was going to be rough. But anyway, it's just, it's an exciting thing, and it's so painful. And me standing in the rain,
it's just like the perfect.
Yeah, it doesn't quite
image of.
It's not as deep as it could be, but it was.
Well, thanks for driving me to college and waving to me in the rain.
You're welcome.
It was very sad.
You got the first floor room.
I had the best.
Yes, because
situation.
And we were right on the end.
I know, and then I had to move, but you didn't have to do any of that.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, I also want to tell the story. I'm sure that you think that you've prepared your child for the real world, and I'm sure that I was prepared. Maybe it was just nerves or whatever. But so I get back from the freshman orientation weekend, whatever, and I get back, but like I mentioned, campus is closed. Like. Only the freshmen are there. So the cafeteria is closed. I have a card that I can go and I can swipe and I can go eat. That's how that works. And it was closed. And I panicked. And I didn't have a car at this time. I didn't get a car till second semester. I didn't have a car my first semester of college. And I was like, I have no food till Wednesday when campus opens. So I call you and you were like, well, just order a pizza. I was like, what? And you're like, just order pizza. And I was like,
for delivery.
And have it delivered here? It was the most bizarre, dumb thing I've ever.
No, let me say, we never had pizza delivered to our house.
That's not true.
Wait, okay, not never. Rarely, because our driveway was so hard for the pizza delivery guy to get out.
True.
So that we would just get up and go get the pizza.
Right. But we did have it. Anyway, I just was like, of course, I can have it delivered.
You knew it was existing.
And this was before Uber and Uber Eats and DoorDash and all that. So anyway, that was so funny. So yeah, I called a pizza and I ate on that pizza for like 3 days.
Well, actually, I think the calf opened, but it was not going to be open for supper. I think you got some breakfast and lunches in there.
Maybe. I don't remember.
You ate on the pizza every dinner, something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
Well, the other thing that was similar to that is that one weekend you got sick.
It was a migraine. Do you remember that?
It was bad. And
it was really bad.
What do I do? I mean, again, there was no delivery service. No pandemic had happened.
Right.
So you couldn't even get to the Walgreens. And you're at the time, well, no, you'd already moved out. Maybe your roommate was gone or whatever. For whatever reason, we had no one that we felt like you could ask.
Yeah.
I had an aunt and uncle. I still have an aunt and uncle, and they still live there about an hour away. And I kept thinking, I'm just going to call them. But I'm thinking they're going to drive 2 hours to go bring you some Advil or Tylenol.
Which I had taken already, but...
Yeah. Anyway, it was very helpless. I'm glad that this next semester you had a car.
Yes, I'm sure it felt very helpless, especially without me having a car. I felt very helpless without me having a car. Having a car was great second semester. But yeah, and then some of just my other, I guess, favorite memories of going away to college or whatever was on my birthday.
Which was very early in the semester.
Very early in the semester. I remember my mom was like, have you checked the mail today? And I was like, no, I guess I'm going to go do that now. And because I called you on my way to every class because I have separation anxiety.
I probably asked you 80 times that day. Have you gone to the mail yet?
I know.
And Mom, leave me alone.
Mom, I'll check it eventually. So eventually I was like, yeah, I guess I'll go check it. So I went to the whatever it's called. I can't think of what the building's called, but I went to the building, the main building with all the student activities.
Campus event center or something.
Yeah. I went downstairs and in my little mailbox was a little package slip and I was like, I got a package. And so
this was actually on your birthday.
It was on my birthday.
Yeah.
And so I went to the little window and I gave her my main little slip and she gave me this box and I opened it and it's a cake. It was an actual like fresh cake in a box. And I was just elated that you had bought me a cake for my birthday, which was so silly, but it's the little things.
Yeah.
For sure. Especially in that first semester of just like anything that is.
Oh, yes.
It just was very
Reminds
special.
You of home and
yes.
that kind of thing, yeah.
Like care packages.
Yeah.
Just like surprises like that. And anyway, it just meant the world. And I remember I was so excited. I like ran to my dorm and I like jumped over a table. I mean, I was so excited about this cake.
You were on the phone, so I could hear you. And
it's like, my mom got me a cake in a box.
Said, what's wrong? And you're like, it's a cake. It's a cake in a box. And you're just running. It was so funny.
I'm weird. Anyway, I was so excited. It was delicious too.
Yeah.
And it was like a decent, I mean, I probably could have shared it, but I didn't. And anyway, yeah, that was fun.
I loved, now there's thousands of places you can do that, right? Back then, if I, like you said, the 15, 16 or 14, 15 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that it was
not a thing.
It was not a thing. Normally now you probably just have a DoorDash, but I was like, it was just amazing that you had delivered a cake to me on my birthday.
Yeah, I like doing stuff like that.
It was very cool. So. Well, I feel like we covered it all.
Yeah, I for any moms out there, I mean, do some kind of research just to make sure that you have at least some semblance of order. You don't want to send your kid off in chaos or in emotional turmoil or whatever. I don't know that I was as prepared as I could have been. I don't know that I had prepared you all. Apparently you didn't know you could order pizza.
I knew it. I just forgot.
But you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then again, you just pay attention to special days and, you drive up when you can, if you can surprise them, or, well, Jesse would want to surprise Mom. Call me before you come.
Yeah, I guess it just depends on the kid.
Yeah. He'd be like, what are you doing here?
Right.
I'm in the middle. He would go, oh my gosh. So you know this, but in Jesse's sophomore year, his best friend's mom moved to Chicago and he didn't want to go. So we adopted him and he's still in the family.
You put that in quotations, but you did. No,
it wasn't an adoption. It was legal guardianship.
Right.
We legal guardianshiped him.
Okay. To guardianship. Yes.
And, so he lived with us for 9 months, 9 or 10 months. And it was hard, but it was good. We love Trey. Well, so they went to college together.
Right.
And them and a bunch of their friends, like 14 or some insane number. And so high school just continued for them. There was no, we're going to become adults now. It was, we're going to still do
Hang out.
everything that we did before,
Yes.
which was great. I mean, they were so responsible. I'm joking, but you know, I would talk to him maybe once a week or twice a week, and he would say, "Yeah, I'm really tired." And I'm like, "Well, why?" And he goes, "Well, we decided to play tennis all night." I said, "What?" You know me, I'm so practical. I'm like, the tennis lights were on all night. There are people who can't sleep because those lights are on. He's like, really, Mom?
That's what you're worried about?
That's one of the things that goes through my mind. It's like, that's just very inconsiderate for your neighbors, you know. And anyway, but they would go and they would start at 10 and think it was awesome to play till 4 o'clock in the morning and then be exhausted in class the next day.
You got to learn. This is a time of learning.
Not
just from the books.
They did, and I think that they eventually moved to tennis during the day.
Yeah,
but I mean, they're still doing that. They're playing. They're adults and married, and you know, in jobs of responsibility, and they're playing soccer on Monday and volleyball on Tuesday and kickball on Wednesday, and they're just
awesome.
Sports crazy. But anyway, yeah, it's fun when we come down to visit you guys so that we get to see y'all play.
You know, you mentioned you were giving a little heads up to the moms sending their kids. I just want to give a heads up to admissions counselors of Maryville and anywhere else. You can do everything right. And if it's just not a good fit, it's not a good fit. And that's not on you. It's not personal.
No, and you're right. Because it was in admissions.
I know.
I had thousands. Oh my gosh, I have to tell this one story. I have thousands of kids come through that don't pick it, and it's not. You don't take it personal. It's not a problem. And hopefully Maryville knows what a great job they did. I wanted to bottle that, whatever that was, where you go, this is it. And no offense, it wasn't just you. That happens. I mean, it happened for you because probably we were praying about it, but it happens for kids all the time. They get just on a campus and it's a great fit.
It's a fit.
So this has nothing to do with the conversation.
You can bottle it. It's called the Holy Spirit.
Well, yeah, there you go. Yeah, totally. I had 2 young men when I was director of admissions at Pacific Christian come out from Kansas, and they were first cousins. And very nice looking young men. Both of them played soccer, and I mean very nice looking. And all the girls are like, "Who's that? Can you introduce me?" It was fun that they eventually came to school there. And so, you know, my job, I've got to organize a schedule for them. They go to chapel and they go to this class and they're going to have lunch with these students. And, you know, I'm just trying to make sure that they stay busy and they meet as many people as possible and they stay in the dorms and all that stuff, right? So I finished showing them the thing and they're both just silent. This is so funny because, I mean, anyway, it's just funny because they eventually became friends,
right?
Beyond just that relationship. But anyway, nothing. And so I think Toby speaks up and he says, "Miss Diane, if we promise that we'll come to your school, do we have to do all of this stuff?" And I said, "Oh, no, you can do whatever you want." And he goes, "Well, we just want to serve for 3 days. Here, I mean, we're in Orange County, so, you know, outside of LA. We just want to surf for 3 days and then we'll go back. But we promise we'll come to your school."
That is so funny.
And they did. I mean, the surfing was at the time, surfing and soccer, I think, was their life.
Yeah.
Well, and Jesus, I'm sure. But anyway.
That's awesome.
It was hilarious.
Yeah, I think there's really nothing. It just depends on the kid. You know what I mean?
It's true.
That's awesome. Because I feel like that's something Jesse would say. Like, if I promise to come here, can I just play games for the next 3 days?
Yes. Rocket League. Where's your Rocket League club?
Right.
Yeah. Oh, I totally
well,
agree.
this was fun.
Yes.
And I'm very excited about season 5. Thank you guys for listening to season 4.
Yes. We are grateful.
Go back and watch seasons 1 through 3 if you haven't. We've just got some really great gambit of people.
We are so fortunate.
We're so blessed.
Yeah, the guy keeps sending us
I know, right?
Great interviews. You know, it's one of this is, I'm giving away too much information, but I always say, I'm really worried that this one's going to kind of go short. And then it goes over
every time.
Yeah, and which is great. The people are so interesting and God has blessed them with such an interesting and incredible life journey that, you know,
that he's sharing for them.
Yeah. It's just hard to stop sometimes.
I know.
You just keep asking questions.
I know.
Anyway, but yes, she's right. Thank you all so much for being on this journey with us.
Yes, and we are grateful. And this podcast, I'm just going to wrap it up one more time. This podcast is made possible through generous listeners and friends like you. And we are so very grateful to all of our supporters. If you would like to sponsor an episode, you can head over to thecollaborationconversation.org and click sponsor an episode.
For more information on Project Brickworks, visit us online at projectbrickworks.org. Subscribe to our newsletter or text BRICK to 55498 to get the latest news and updates. We love y'all. Be blessed, and we'll see you next time.
See you in season 5.
Amen. Bye-bye.